After giving it some thought, I decided to call that consciousness that is experienced holistically in the headspace, emanation consciousness. In the future, when complete vertical surrender is reached in consciousness, in fact in emanation consciousness, then the personal consciousness, personal intelligence merges with the emanation intelligence, and then they become one, and we call it primary intelligence or primary consciousness. But for now, let's make sure that you establish emanation consciousness in your headspace. I wasn't really planning to talk so much about emanation consciousness, but as I do, I begin to see its great practical importance for you. You just need to fully establish it. There are two possible issues that can occur. One is you don't have a proper access to it. And second is there's too much pull from the person in the front and from, personal intelligence and personality, because they are all in the front. And in order to overcome that second obstacle, emanation consciousness has to become really strong, dominant. Second, the person has to be very relaxed, and one has to aspire to reach transparency in personality. So I will return to it, but let's do one more sitting on the subject. First, place yourself at the back of your head, as we have done it countless times. Now the goal is not to go behind the head, but just to create a solid place at the back. And to become one with pure me of consciousness. The concept of emanating intelligence is actually very significant because it really shows us basic principles behind any and all spiritual awakenings. Emanating intelligence carries with itself the knowledge of pure subjectivity. It's quite fascinating, in fact, to see how it operates, and also it allows us to understand why some students struggle with establishing deeper consciousness, absolute, even awakening of the heart also requires emanating intelligence. You need to understand that it is not a natural faculty for human beings. It's a new kind of intelligence. It does emanate from personal intelligence, but not in a way that it is really tangible, that you can pinpoint how it emanates. There's an intention coming from the person to look inside, to go within. Because person has that inner face, internal side, which is not the same as introversion. It is like the face looking back. And we have even a name for it, the inward person. Is looking back, but then he cannot really go anywhere. He cannot leave his original location. Neither his direct intelligence cannot go anywhere, because everything that you feel in your body is via psychosomatic intelligence, which is different one. It's not intelligence of the person directly. It is, the person is relating to it, but it is just a different kind of intelligence, very basic and necessary for us living in the body, but it has no spiritual value. Not in the sense of being capable of triggering any kind of awakening. So the person is looking in this case is looking back, towards the back of the head, to the area where there is literally nothing there in terms of consciousness. There's no consciousness whatsoever. And then something happens, that new intelligence is activated. So those who struggle, for instance, going back in the head, or they're asked, for instance, to feel that area. They are using psychosomatic, somatic intelligence, sensory intelligence. So they feel there are something, some sensations, but feeling sensations at the back of your head means spiritually nothing. You need to use emanating intelligence. But how? It is being transmitted, but transmission also has to be received, because transmission is giving and receiving. Giving without receiving produces no results. That's why, as we are working together, and I have this role of a teacher, a guide, we need to be in this spiritual, empathic or empathetic connection that you need to actually feel what I'm trying to convey, not just intellectually, but you need to feel it energetically and spiritually, existentially. You need to feel that intelligence, in this case, emanating intelligence. So it is emanating, but initially you don't really trace a movement from the person to the back of the head. There is and why not? Because that intelligence doesn't have abiding place. In order for that intelligence to feel itself, it needs to have a place to be, some kind of an anchor. For instance, when you go to your heart can be an anchor for emanating intelligence. But heart we already have, at least in a very basic level, but there is already some heart there. So we have some point of reference, but the intelligence can move there, and then you feel your intelligence in the heart. Because when you feel your heart, you are not just feeling heart as a place in your chest, you are feeling your intelligence. Intelligence is entering that space and makes it alive. But there is no such a place at the back of your head. There's no original center or some kind of natural center that we just need to activate and then it comes into existence. There's nothing there. What there is, however, is a portal to the universal I am, to universal consciousness. And at that portal, that intelligence is able to find an anchor and is able to establish a center. In the past, very recently, I was using the concept of pure attention. Pure attention moves instantaneously into the back, and there you are. There you feel sense of presence. The concept of pure attention is still valid. I just somehow choose not to use it that much, or perhaps not at all. I'm not sure. So, emanating intelligence moves towards the back of the head. Feel it. feel it. It's fluid, it's etheric, but it is actually very tangible. Move to the back of the head, and there you feel presence, a new presence created by that emanating intelligence. And that presence is your anchor in true consciousness. And then that presence has to be established. It has to be established energetically, but also intelligence has to stabilize itself in recognition of it. Because you see, emanating intelligence is also evolving. First you awaken it to a degree that actually it comes into operation, but then it evolves. It becomes more conscious. It becomes actually conscious of its own pure subjectivity. Because it is emanating intelligence that creates pure subjectivity. What else? Theoretically, the person can have a sense of pure subjectivity, but the person initially is extremely limited, and its presence is very unrefined, even if he is able to separate himself from thinking, from thoughts. His experience of himself is not particularly gratifying. And this is why we do not emphasize awakening of the person from the start of the path. First we need to open all the spaces inside us. And then, either indirectly, the person grows into consciousness, or we make him conscious directly. He grows indirectly into consciousness because he, the person, is maintaining the continuity of emanating intelligence. Who else? He has to remember. He forgets, and then emanating intelligence is also forgotten, deactivated. Or after it is fully established, it can be present on on the level of intrinsic recognition, but that's later. Initially, he has to remember. And the person is very forgetful. Forgetful inwardly. He can remember many things, but he cannot. His inward attention is very undeveloped. That's why everybody keeps forgetting. Anyway, we need to establish pure subjectivity via emanating intelligence. Emanating intelligence is like the innermost emanation of the person himself. Even though it doesn't even appear that he is doing it. His intention is doing it. And then something magical happens. This new intelligence suddenly comes into existence. And you see, because the person has to remember to activate emanating intelligence, meaning his inner eye has to be turned within in order to, from distance, to activate that intelligence, to keep it active, to keep it lit. So the moment he is engaged in the external things, he forgets emanating intelligence. He just remembers the external intelligence, the external attention. He just cannot hold into these two directions of attention simultaneously. When he is not busy, okay, he can remember. But when he's busy, he forgets everything. So the fact is that the person has to be trained, but indirectly. I would like to emphasize it. You don't want to focus on the person initially. It will just give you a headache. Gently, perhaps, as we have been doing it, but not too much. That's why I was always saying in the past that with the event of awakening of pure me of consciousness, pure me is the primary identity, person is the secondary, and so forth. He's not supposed to be primary identity initially, even though ultimately he is the primary identity. He is the main center of the soul. He is the soul. So okay, developing the capacity in the person to hold the inner and the outer attention simultaneously is part of the equation, but there are more things here, psychological, and I will get to it in this retreat. The person is not just a mental center. He is an emotional center as well. He has many things going on emotionally, which is, that whole personality matter. He is worrying, he is self-conscious, he is uncertain about himself. He worries what other people think about him. He is worrying about his life. He has many desires he wants to fulfill. He is in a struggle, psychological struggle, constantly, most of the time. So when he is being triggered externally, it's not just that he cannot focus on emanating intelligence. He is so concerned with his human affairs that nothing matters anymore. Nothing matters anymore. He forgets about everything, about what spiritually matters. Emanation, consciousness does not matter for him anymore. Heart doesn't matter for him anymore. Absolute does not matter for him anymore. He becomes so identified with personality that all is forgotten. This is why. And we'll get to it. We need to completely relinquish emotional processing in the mind, because it's all emotional. Perhaps not all, but most of it. The mind has to be emotionally free. and neutral, non-reactive, and emotions should be experienced where they are supposed to be experienced. In your body, in your heart, in your solar plexus. The mind is incapable of processing emotions. He just messes everything up. Coming back to the subject, you are rooted at the back of your head, gently but firmly. It has to be, that presence has to be soft. And you need to be relaxed in that presence. Pure me, if you will. I don't even know if to call it pure me anymore, or something else. But you know what I mean. There's this presence at the back that is your anchor, your center, beyond the mind. And initially one has to cultivate it until it is constant. However, since we have been doing it for years, most of you should be able to be in it without. I know you are still forgetting, but if you want to remember, you can. And the next step, as I already was guiding you towards it, is relaxing in your head. And to relax in your head, it means you bring element of verticality. You may do like that, you relax vertically in pure me of consciousness at the back, and let this relaxation spread through your headspace. And the main area of that headspace that you should prioritize is from behind the front to the back. It's okay that you also experience the front, assuming you are relaxed there, resting in it. But for someone who is just beginning doing it, I would not recommend it too much, because the front is dangerous. The person can get too active, too concentrated. Initially you want to bypass the person as much as you can. So you relax and just embody that space of emanation consciousness. live from it, talk from it, relate to other people from it. That is the real you. As you have embodied it well and you are confident, then you can bring more vertical surrender, and that vertical surrender happens from the center of your head downwards towards your neck, aiming to be as in primary subjectivity, in a state of as close as possible to the absolute let go. I want us to be serious. If we are doing this work, let's do it seriously. And I really hope that the moment I see you personally, you are embodying emanation consciousness. Is it too much to ask for from you? I don't think so. Be it, become it. This will be your foundation for your further evolution towards everything. You must have this foundation. And if you have difficulties to actualize it, work harder. And drop your personality more. Be empty in your head, transparent. Be pure in your head. But this is what it is, purity.